tariffs, of which 25% was in fact imposed by Donald Trump first, followed by an additional 25% penalty for New Delhi for Russia's oil purchases. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins us for more on this. Ghazali, what's the latest between this flip-flop you're seeing from Zelensky? Is he putting all his stones in the same basket and probably hoping that Donald Trump does not turn on him like he has been turning on his allies? You take India, the latest example we have is Japan, where the Prime Minister, in fact, Shiba, had to resign after striking that trade deal with the US. What's the latest you're picking up, Ghazali?
See, Mr. Zelensky has been knocking the US doors for very long to achieve a ceasefire with Russia, but that has not yielded any results. Even when Mr. Putin invited Mr. Zelensky to Moscow for talks, Mr. Zelensky has rubbished it, saying that it doesn't look like Mr. Putin is serious for talks. And just last month, Mr. Zelensky had spoken to Prime Minister Modi twice, and on both occasions he had discussed the outcome of the or to find a way out to halt this war with Russia, and also sort of requested India to show its influence or use its influence to ask Russia not to continue with this war. But see, it seems all that has fallen for him. Nothing seems to be working for Mr. Zelensky, where Ukraine had faced deadly attacks just day before yesterday from Russia, and it now appears as if that he is done with it, and he sees that India has great influence or potential to influence Mr. Putin to halt the war, to at least stop this aggression. And that is why, out of frustration perhaps, he has agreed that even sanctions could be used to pressure both Russia and India to halt this war.
Out of frustration, perhaps, Ghazali, thank you so much for getting us the latest on this developing story. Something, of course, we'll keep on following here on the World Report. Meanwhile, shifting our focus to Washington, where US President Donald Trump says he is ready for second phase of sanctions against Russia. Now, the move is being seen by experts as a failure of the recently concluded Alaska summit. Trump has repeatedly threatened Moscow with further sanctions, but has withheld them as he's pursued talks till now. Meanwhile, experts say and opine that Trump has been frustrated as there is no halt to the fighting in Ukraine after he initially predicted he would be able to end the war swiftly when he took office on the 20th of January. Listen into Trump, followed by my colleague Vishal Vivek, who unpacks the latest.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
How was your call with the Prime Minister of Australia?
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
How was your call with the Prime Minister of Australia?
So, no, I am not thrilled with what's happening there, I will tell you. I think it's going to get settled. So I settled 7 wars. This, I would have said, would have been maybe the easiest one to settle of all. But with war, you never know what you're getting. But we're going to get it, I believe we're going to get it settled. But I am not happy with them. I'm not happy with anything having to do with that war. It's just such a waste of great humanity.
Alaska summit that happened a few weeks ago, that seems to have failed totally. It was high on optics, but low on delivery. That's been proven through these statements by, Donald Trump, in which he clearly, signaled that there would be secondary sanctions, there would be another round of sanctions on Russia. To your question of what those could entail, so we have seen in the recent past that Russia's oil trade has been targeted by the West and its allies quite heavily. It is expected that that would continue. There would be further sanctions on Russia. There's a shadow fleet of Russia that operates across the globe and that has been able to sustain the Russian economy in the times of war. So that shadow fleet could be the next target. Some of the, a part of the fleet is already under target, so we could see bigger sanctions on that so-called shadow fleet. But all of that will have to be seen. But for the moment, as you rightly mentioned, Alaska summit in itself seems to have failed because it was billed as something, as an inflection point in the big Russia-Ukraine war. It's been almost 3.5 years now, or probably over 1 million people have been killed in the war. So it was billed as something that would be the next step in, bringing the war to an end. But that doesn't seem to be the case because Trump, as reports have mentioned, that he's quite annoyed with Russian President Putin because his repeated attempts have failed. He has, said when he walked into the White House for the second time that he would bring an end to the conflict within a day. And it's been more than 6 months now, and that has not happened. So Trump seems to be riled up, and he's ready to put more sanctions on Russia.
We keep with the U.S. where White House tariff advisor Peter Navarro has had a meltdown after one of his posts targeting India's Russian oil purchases was flagged with a community note on social media platform X. Now, yet again, viewers, Peter Navarro accused India of trading with Russia, in his words, purely to profit, revenue feed Russia's war machine. But this time, X users fact-checked Navarro, pointing out that India's oil imports were largely for energy security and not for just profit, as he claims, and also that they did not violate any international sanctions. Now, the note further highlighted that while India imposes some tariffs, the US actually runs a trade surplus with New Delhi in services and in fact continues to import certain commodities from Russia itself, calling Navarro's stance hypocritical. Now, fuming at the pushback, Navarro dismissed the note as crap and lashed out at CEO Elon Musk for letting propaganda into people's posts. Musk, however, did not directly respond to Navarro, nor did he name him in the post. But he posted saying, on this platform, the people decide the narrative. Community notes corrects everyone, no exceptions. External Affairs Minister S. Shankar is set to join a virtual BRICS summit today on the 8th of September, hosted by Brazilian President Lula da Silva. Now, top of the agenda will be U.S. tariffs imposed by Donald Trump, which have triggered fresh tensions across emerging markets. The meeting follows a high-level huddle just last week between leaders of China, Russia and India, the Troika as it's called, in China's Tianjin. While Jaishankar represents India at BRICS, the government has also stressed the strength of India-US ties, calling them strategic and resilient. With tariffs soaring more than 50% on some BRICS exports, today's summit aims to find common ground, but also avoids framing it as an anti-US grouping. Now, from safe, clean environment to medical care and other essential amenities, the Ministry of Home Affairs has assured Belgium that Mehul Choksi's rights will be protected if he is extradited to India. It's detailed specific material, medical and procedural safeguards as well. Now, these assurances were formulated in consultation with the Maharashtra government to ensure that Choksi's rights are protected while complying with extradition protocols. We shift our focus to the Middle East, where to the fourth visit by any Israeli minister to India this year, Israel's finance minister Bezalel Smotrich is in India leading a high-level economic delegation to boost ties between the two nations. Over the next 3 days, Smotrich will meet top Indian officials. These also include Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Commerce and Industries Minister Piyush Goyal. Now, Smotrich's team includes top Israeli financial leaders, and meetings are set to take place not only in New Delhi but also in Mumbai and Gujarat as well. India and Israel, for perspective, already share $4 billion in annual revenue, and this visit is designed to take that relationship to the next level. US President Donald Trump on Sunday gave what he declared was his last warning to Hamas to agree to his terms for ending the Middle East war. He also added that Israel has accepted his proposed ceasefire and hostage release agreement. However, the message sent in a social media post doesn't specify or specifically tell us what those terms are or might be. I have warned Hamas about the consequences of not accepting. This is my last warning. There will be no other one, Trump asserted. Now, he also issued a similar ultimatum before threatening Hamas will have, in fact, hell to pay in a March post that also claimed it was his last warning to the militant group. Over in Western Europe, France risks losing its third prime minister in only 12 months on Monday, with incumbent Francois Bayrou facing a parliamentary no-confidence vote, heralding more political and financial instability for the European Union's second largest economy. The 74-year-old centrist prime minister appointed by President Emmanuel Macron just under 9 months ago is gambling that the vote will federate lawmakers in a sharply divided National Assembly behind proposed public spending cuts that Bayrou himself argues are needed to rein in France's spiraling state deficit and also its peaking debts. Here more.
French lawmakers are gathering to decide the fate of France's Prime Minister, here in the National Assembly building in Paris. If toppled by a confidence vote, François Bayrou will become the third Prime Minister to fall in 12 months. All of this instability in Europe's second largest economy flows from a stunning decision that President Emmanuel Macron took last year. By dissolving the National Assembly, triggering fresh legislative elections, Macron took a roll of the political dice. He hoped that his party would emerge strengthened, but instead the electorate punished him, voting in a sharply divided assembly where no one group has power. All of this has left Macron's prime ministers and their governments on shaky ground without a stable majority. Bayrou's widely expected demise will force Macron to begin another and likely difficult hunt for a new prime minister. But the person that Macron chooses will inherit the same problems that ultimately have defeated Bayrou. Top of the pile is the worsening state of France's finances, its public deficit and its massive debts. Finding consensus solutions when lawmakers are so bitterly divided ultimately proved impossible and is unlikely to be any easier for Bayrou's successors. Macron, unable to turn France around, risks looking increasingly powerless as the clock counts down to the end of his presidency in 2027.
Argentine President Javier Milei suffered a sweeping setback on Sunday in the Buenos Aires provincial election, widely viewed as a political test for his Libertarian Party and barometer for how it will perform in the crucial congressional midterms only due next month. Now, Milei's recently formed La Libertad Avanza party captured this 34% of the votes in Argentina's biggest province, losing by a landslide to the left-leaning Peronist opposition, which secured a whopping 47%, with majority of ballots counted late Sunday. Now, Milei conceded that his right-wing party's crushing 13-point loss to his populist rivals represented a clear defeat. News from the land down under, where an Australian judge on Monday sentenced triple murder Erin Patterson to life in prison with a non-parole period of 33 years. This for poisoning 4 of her estranged husband's relatives with death cap mushrooms. That's right, Justice Christopher Bale told the court that Victoria State Supreme Court Patterson's crimes involved an enormous betrayal of trust. Patterson was convicted in July of murdering Dawn and Gail Patterson and Gail's sister Heather Wilkinson with a lunch of beef Wellington pastries laced with foraged death cap mushrooms. Here's more.
Erin Patterson, after a long trial, during which you gave evidence that the poisoning of your 4 lunch guests on the 29th of July was an accident, the jury found you guilty of 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. In other words, the jury necessarily found that you deliberately served poison meals to Gail and Don Patterson and Heather and Ian Wilkinson, and that you did so intending to kill them. Only Ian Wilkinson survived. The maximum penalty for murder is life imprisonment, and for attempted murder, 25 years imprisonment. Murder is also a standard sentence offence, and the standard sentence offence for murder is 25 years imprisonment. The prosecution submits, and your counsel concedes, that your offending falls into the worst category of offending for these offences, and that you should receive the maximum penalties for your crimes. I agree.
A trial opened in New Zealand on Monday for a woman accused of murdering her 2 children and leaving their bodies in suitcases for years together before they were eventually discovered. Ha Kyung Lee is charged with killing 6-year-old Minu Zhou and 8-year-old Yuna Zhou in June 2018. She was extradited from South Korea to face the charges, which she vehemently still denies. The children's remains were found in luggage at an abandoned storage unit near Auckland, New Zealand in August 2022. Listen in.
I'll give you directions, as I say, on the law, and you'll have to apply those directions, but ultimately it's for you to decide on the facts, in light of those directions, whether Ms Lee is guilty or not guilty of the charges she faces. In this case, it's likely you'll also need to determine whether at the time the children were killed, Ms Lee was insane, as that is defined in our Crimes Act. And I'll have more to say about that later as the case progresses.
Over in Southeast Asia, Hong Kong received heavy rain and wind Monday as tropical storm Tapa also affected nearby mainland China. Now, China's hub of Guangdong province near Hong Kong halted some train and ferry services ahead of the storm, according to Hong Kong's state media. Now, Hong Kong's observatory raised its number 8 storm signal on Sunday evening, the third highest in the city's weather system. For perspective, it says Tapa was packing maximum sustained winds near the center of about 68 miles per hour at 9 a.m. local time. The financial hub, in fact, also saw about 100 flights being cancelled, with some travellers sleeping on chairs as they were forced to wait for travel information at the airport itself. Well, it's time we slip into a short break. Much more on the other side. Don't you go anywhere.
Auto Sergey automatically checks for ways to save on your car or home insurance. They compares the market app, the simplest way to save.
Get the new Google Pixel 10 Pro on EE because powerful AI deserves the UK's best network.
Hey Gemini, help me organise my living room.
Got it. Let's get that sofa moved. Turn it around and place it on the other side of the room, against the wall. Try mixing books with photos on the shelf to make it feel like home.
Talk to Gemini about anything you see. Powered by EE. Offer ends 15th of September.
Win a dream design contract. Realize you have to do a lot of business admin work before you can start the actual design work. Save time by using Intuit QuickBooks to send personalized invoices. Get paid faster. Win the next dream design contract. Manage and grow your business all in one place. Intuit QuickBooks.
Nepal's youth is holding a rally to protest against corruption in the country. Now, the rally at a venue close to the Prime Minister's office in this case is being held or hosted by people under 28 years of age, the Gen Z as they are called, with no political parties backing them. The organizers said they are fighting rampant corruption, inequality, and the government coming down heavily on protests. Well, let's get some updates from the world of business, where US President Donald Trump's administration plans to in fact target more businesses and immigration enforcement after a raid on a Hyundai facility in Georgia led to hundreds of arrests, a top White House official said on Sunday. Now, speaking at CNN's State of the Union broadcast, White House border czar Tom Homan said that the administration would intensify the focus on workplaces starting now. Standard Chartered expects U.S. Federal Reserves to cut interest rates by 50 basis points at its policy meeting this month, double its earlier projection of a 25 BP reduction. Now, this follows a soft August jobs report. Meanwhile, data on Friday showed U.S. job growth weakened sharply in August, and the unemployment rate also, in fact, rose up to a near 4-year high of 4.3%, confirming a softening labor market and bolstering the case for rate cuts this month itself. Now, in a client note on Friday, the brokerage said that the labor market had shifted from solid to soft in less than 6 weeks. And India has defeated South Korea 4-1 in the summit clash, in fact, of the Asia Cup 2025 at Bihar's Rajgir Hockey Stadium. It was the 4th title for India. With it, they also booked a World Cup spot or a berth for themselves. PM Modi, meanwhile, has congratulated the hockey champions in a post on X. The Prime Minister said, and I'm quoting here, "This win is even more special because they have defeated the defending champions, South Korea." The PM added that this is a proud moment for Indian hockey and Indian sports. May our players continue to scale even greater heights and bring more glory to the nation. Carlos Alcaraz is collecting titles at a breathless pace. That's correct. Early on Monday morning, he was crowned the US Open champion, beating Yannick Sinner in a four-setter. He also becomes the new world #1 after the New York triumph. Here's a report.
The men's final at the Flushing Meadows was delayed by half an hour on Sunday night because of extra security measures due to US President Donald Trump's presence. Once it got underway, the pair played engaging tennis but spared the Arthur Ashe crowd from the drama of Wimbledon and French Open. Sinner began confidently but was rocked by the Spaniard's returns. Alcaraz claimed advantage in the first set. Sinner raised the stakes, hitting his trademark ferocious ground strokes and pushing Alcaraz back with an improved return of serve. Ultimately, he leveled the match. Like the Wimbledon final 8 weeks earlier, a delicately poised match after 2 sets quickly turned one-sided. Alcaraz broke early in the third set, rediscovering his first serve and touch at the net. After losing serve for the 5th time in the match, Sinner did not seriously threaten to break back before Alcaraz sealed a 6-2, 3-6, 6-1, 6-4 win. After facing Yannick Sinner in the 5th final of the season, here's what Carlos Alcaraz said.
I'm seeing you more than my family, so it's Jesus. So I mean, it's great to share the court, to share the locker rooms, to share everything with you.
He also wrestled back the #1 spot from the Italian, who had held it for 65 weeks. The 22-year-old now has won 6 Grand Slam titles.
Alcaraz at 22 with his 6th major title,
making him the 2nd youngest man behind Bjorn Borg to reach this tally. In New Delhi, Reet Roy for NDTV.
2025 US Open Men's Singles Champion, Carlos Alcaraz.
Filmmaker Anuparna Roy has created history at the 82nd edition of the Venice Film Festival, winning the Best Director in the Orizzonati competition for a film, Songs of Forgotten Trees. Presented by Anurag Kashyap, Anuparna Roy's Songs of Forgotten Trees became the only Indian title in Venice's Orizzonati selection. It revolves around 2 migrant women in Mumbai as they navigate loneliness, survival, and fleeting moments of connection. We leave you with this report.
As Indian cinema continues its unstoppable rise on the global stage, driven by a bold new wave of women filmmakers, Anuparna Roy has made history at the 82nd Venice Film Festival, winning Best Director in the Orizzonati competition for her film Song of Forgotten Trees.
आपने पढ़ी है कविताएं हमारी? अजी पढ़ने का अवसर कहाँ मिला, झाका जरूर है। मुल्क में जब आज़ादी की आग लग रही है।
Song of Forgotten Trees revolves around 2 migrant women in Mumbai as they develop an unexpected connection beyond being roommates. The film stood tall as the only Indian entry in the category.
I was emotional, my eyes were teary, and to cheer up for my team, they all are here. I'm grateful to all the actors, Naz Sheikh and Sumi Baghel. Everyone were amazing. Thank you.
Hailing from Narayanpur, a quiet village in West Bengal's Purulia district, Anuparna's journey is anything but ordinary. As an English literature graduate, she once juggled corporate jobs in Delhi and Mumbai before chasing her cinematic dreams. Fueled by a passion for film, She pursued a diploma from Anupam Kher's acting school and participated in various acting workshops, only to realize that her true calling was behind the camera. With this win, Roy becomes the first Indian director ever to bag this honor, marking a giant leap for Indian storytelling on the world map. From Purulia to Venice, Anuparna Roy's journey is one powered by passion, perseverance, and powerful storytelling. Samia Afsar, NDTV World.
Clothes. I'm a big fine car now. Oh yes I do. I miss the big stuff. Just like you say I am. I miss the big stuff. I'm not hard for love.
Dacia Bigster. Available now from only £25,215.
If Lubasi was your son, you'd do anything to stop his suffering. He's in agony because he has an eye infection called trachoma. It's often spread by flies, like these. If Lubasi was your son, you'd take him to the doctor. But his parents can't afford to get him the care he so desperately needs. You can. When you give £2 a month to Sightsavers, you can help save more children from agony like this and spare their parents the pain of watching their children suffer. Every month, you'll help our eye doctors get to some of the world's poorest and most remote villages. It's so simple to treat trachoma, but we urgently need your support to do it. So please call 0800 038 4920, text Site10 to 82727, or go to sightsavers.tv to give £2 a month to Sightsavers right now.
Sometimes it's the little things that remind us of them. Stay close, even when you're far apart. Send money worldwide with Remitly.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years. Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years, covering the corridors of power, what is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
Rajasthan is history, culture, and much more. And I have been reporting on all things royal for more than 25 years.
The colors, the culture, and the complexities of the Northeast is different from the rest of the country. I have been bringing the Northeast closer to the capital for over 15 years.
Madhya Pradesh is the heart of India, and I have been capturing its every beat for over 10 years.
Covering the corridors of power, what is said, what is left unsaid, and what it actually means for you and me. I have it all covered.
Kashmir is often called paradise on earth, a region that has been in a state of flux from conflict to India's crowning glory. I have been reporting and decoding Jammu and Kashmir for last 3 decades.
You're watching India Global. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. I'll get you all the stories that matter to the global Indian. As always, we start the show with headlines coming in. Zelensky backs American tariffs on India. Ukraine president backs Trump's actions, says statement after the Modi-Zelensky call. Government sends assurance to Belgium government, promises humane jail stay for Mehul Choksi. Decks cleared for him to return and face the law in India, we ask. Team India are the champions of Asia. India wins Hockey Asia Cup 2025, beats South Korea 4-1 in the final. All right, viewers, the big story that we are tracking on the show in a surprising move. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky has backed Donald Trump's move with regard to tariffs. He has come out and said that those countries that are trading with Russia should be penalized with additional tariffs, even as the global backlash grows. Speaking to ABC News, Zelensky called Donald Trump's tariff threats against nations like India the right idea. Yes, that's what Zelensky said. Now, Zelensky is now bending over backwards to appease Donald Trump. The statement comes just days after Donald Trump announced the so-called second stage of Russia's sanctions, including a 50% tariff on Indian goods, sparking outrage in New Delhi. Well, India has fired back, accusing the US and Europe of hypocrisy, trading billions with Russia while punishing others for doing exactly the same. Many see Zelensky's remarks not as a principled stand, but as a political calculation. In fact, choosing to praise Donald Trump's tariffs in the hope that he will be able to find some sort of solution to a war where Zelensky, frankly, has no options at this stage. Now, even as they divide allies, damage global trade, it seems like Zelensky for now is just cozying up to whoever might write the next check rather than protecting Ukrainian democracy. Well, it's not even about democracy, but it's about the fact that does Zelensky even have any locus standi to talk on this? Does Zelensky have any leverage whatsoever to speak on this issue? And lastly, Zelensky made a phone call to Prime Minister Modi a few days back because he understands that there are very few countries who actually have those back channel lines of communications that can solve the Ukraine conflict, that can find the solution. Alaska summit failed. Zelensky still doesn't have answers. There is no ceasefire on the table. And this kind of rhetoric only damages any prospect of finding a solution. Let's try and connect with my guests joining me on the broadcast, and we'll also get you the big questions that we are talking and we're raising on this issue. Manju Seth, who joins me on the broadcast. We also have Vadim. Mr. Vadim, I'm afraid I'll try my level best to pronounce your second name, and apologies if I don't get it right. Mr. Halushek, who's an MP, International Secretary of the Servant of the People Party. Joining me from Kiev. What's the mood like in Kiev right now? Surely many people believe that this kind of blame game or this kind of statements against India are not going to help you solve the conflict. and most certainly will not serve the interests of the Ukrainian people?
Thank you for the invitation. You did just well with my name, Vadim Halaychuk. I'm from the President Zelensky party, and I am in the European Integration Committee, where we work a lot on overseeing the process that the sanctions which were applied on Russia are actually observed. And as we know well, the EU is now in the process of forming 19th package. Of course, if those were applied correctly, we wouldn't need 19 packages now. If those sanctions which were applied were observed by everyone, we would have had a very different situation. Therefore, I completely disagree with the assessment that the statements made by President Zelensky are against India. They are against the situation, against those countries, against those businesses who help Russia to avoid sanctions. And as we know well, oil trade is the number one source of income for Russia and the number one source of fueling this war. So the way
Trading
forward would
in
be
Russian
to
oil?
apply the sanctions.
Mr. Vadim, are you trying to
and
say that there
force
is
Russia
nobody
into
trading in
serious
Russian oil?
negotiations.
And this is going to help you solve the conflict?
Absolutely. Russians will stop only when they stop. Putin has shown no interest whatsoever in diplomacy. He has made the ultimatum, and regardless of all the niceties,
Putin is not
that
showing
he
any
got,
interest in diplomacy because the Alaska summit failed. Let's also be very clear. He walked out without a ceasefire. He walked out without any need to be able to finalize a peace plan. And the summit had the Russian plan being negotiated and discussed. And who can forget that it also had the foreign leaders speaking first. Anyway, let's get in Manju's say as well on this. Manju, now, this comes after there was an olive branch extended by President Trump. And it comes after some very important messaging coming in from Washington that the India-US relationship is extremely important. And it also comes at a time when there is acknowledgement around the world that India is probably best placed to address the issue. It's not for nothing that you had the French President Emmanuel Macron speaking to Prime Minister Modi on the issue, simply because most of the European leaders understand that they've run out of options and this is their best bet. With the kind of rhetoric coming in from Ukrainian President Zelensky, do you think it furthers his case or dampens the prospect of any peace settlement?
I think you put it very correctly, Gauri, that the situation right now is, I think, a no win-win for anybody. The way things are going, there seems to be a complete, a complete halt on negotiations, and I think negotiations are important. And yes, I know, and I completely agree with the Ukrainians that they don't want their territory to go. But this whole war that was started, and is still continuing after more than 3 years, I think we need to get to the crux of the issue. Why did this war start? Who was responsible? Now, everybody blaming India for it or blaming others for it, I feel is incorrect, because that situation should not have been allowed to arise. That negotiation should have been done at that time, and now, you know, what the president and what the president of Russia, President Putin, is saying is that I have so much land, so he's going to dictate because he seems to he believes he has the upper hand. So I think the way negotiations will now go on will be, and we saw that at the Alaska meeting also, President Putin didn't even agree to a ceasefire. And it's not because India is buying oil from them. I think that linkage, is not at all.
Okay, then let me ask this to our Ukrainian guest on the broadcast, which is that what do you think is the best way forward? Because you have very limited diplomatic options right now. How do you think targeting India, suggesting that tariffs are a good idea, trying to be on Donald Trump's right side, will actually solve the conflict? There is no peace settlement formula on the table right now.
This conflict will be resolved on a battlefield, will be decided on a battlefield. There's no peace negotiations whatsoever because Russia doesn't want.
Do you think New Delhi will support it with this kind of rant coming in? India has been very, very responsible. It has actually said that this is not the era of war. Go ahead.
Look, we have applied the most efficient sanctions that could be applied on Russia. We have destroyed over 20% of their oil refinery in just a month. That is the only way forward right now. Cause Russia to lose economically to the extent where they would get serious about peace negotiations. And it's not against India or any other particular country that we are making these statements, that we are calling for.
No, you are. I heard the interview, sir. You are. You most certainly are. I heard that interview that Zelensky gave. You most certainly are.
India is a number one purchaser of Russian oil now. If only India cut down in half what Russia would do. They cannot refine their oil at home. They cannot sell it to India and other countries. I am
China
sure
is the
that
number
that
one.
would be
EU is the largest buyer of natural gas. Again, I said this is nothing but hypocrisy, and you're not really serving your case either. Quick closing comments from Manju Seth on this. Ma'am, as things stand right now, India has not only been very dignified in its response, it's been very responsible all along, whether to the rant that came in from Donald Trump and his administration, whether the messaging that came in from several quarters around the world regarding Russian oil. And I believe it will be the same with regard to Zelensky's rants as well.
Absolutely. I think this double speak that is going on and the double standards being applied are not serving anyone's, not serving anyone. And I'm not able to fathom why India has been targeted. I mean, I'm able to fathom a bit, but yes, I don't want to explicitly state that. But yes, the fact that India is being targeted, being blamed, is something which is not going to, as you very rightly said, it's not going to lead to peace. And as mentioned by the Honorable MP, he believes that it will be sorted out on the war field. Then what are we talking about ending the war? If it has to be sorted out on the battlefield, that's the only way, then I think this war is not going to end anytime soon.
All right.
I believe it just go on. And I think that's not in anybody's interest, but that is for them for the players or the people involved in that war to take a decision and take a call. But I believe that targeting India really needs to stop.
I think there's one thing I can most certainly say. The war will or will not end. That TNC will most certainly not be decided by Mr. Zelensky and his comments, simply because he doesn't have any leverage. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining me. And well, bottom line on this issue, viewers, is that Vladimir Zelensky actually has no leverage right now. He is waiting for things to pan out and is hoping that being on the right side of Donald Trump and his administration will allow him the possibility and the prospect of ending this war, which has been going on for 3.5 years. But this is a reality check for him as well. The Japanese Prime Minister resigned even after he signed a trade deal with President Trump. He bent over backwards, but Trump didn't blink. And then there were these fresh tariffs that Japan had to face. Well, that's a reality check that President Zelensky should keep in mind, that Ukraine can keep praising Trump and keep talking about how the 50% tariffs that the Trump administration has come out with is a right idea. But what he doesn't realize is that the entire European continent and all European leaders understand that if there's one country that does have leverage and does have the prospect of speaking to both sides, it is India. It is in New Delhi which actually has those back channel lines of communication. Should Zelensky be straining them? Should Zelensky be testing them? Well, that's a question that Kiev and Ukraine should be asking its president. All right, let's turn attention now to breaking news that's coming in as we speak. Important updates coming in from Nepal, where the youth is holding a rally to protest against corruption in the country. The rally is at a venue that's close to the Prime Minister's office, is being hosted by people under 28. The Gen Z, it says, doesn't have any political affiliations, and the organizers are just protesting with regard to rampant corruption, inequality, and the government is coming down heavily on these protesters. You're seeing those visuals on your screens. There's been a ban that's been imposed on social media. It's happened because to ensure that things do not go out of control. This ban was implemented on Thursday. But what needs to be kept in mind is that Nepal has been seeing and witnessing some protests in the last 6 months. Those protests have been with relation to bringing the monarchy back. This may not be related to that, but political turmoil is something that Kathmandu has been seeing for the last couple of months. Turning attention now to a major development tied to India's push to bring back fugitive economic offenders. A team from the UK's Crown Prosecution Service visited Delhi's Tihar jail a while ago. 4-member team, including officials from the British High Commission, they arrived here. They spent several hours inspecting jail premises. Jail number 4 is where one of these economic offenders is likely to be lodged. Why jail number 4? Well, it's the high security wing where first-time prisoners are kept. The visit comes amidst India's ongoing efforts to extradite high-profile fugitives, whether it's Vijay Mallya or Nirav Modi. British courts have previously raised concerns with regards to prison conditions in India, and those extradition cases have progressed very smoothly, even as questions remain and have been asked by India again and again in terms of why is it that this is being raised as an issue, even though New Delhi has clarified that humane conditions will be given to the prisoners. All right, on that note, a quick break. We return with more stories on the other side. Stay with us.
This is an appeal to stop the dirty water crisis and to help stop scenes like these.
Filming with WaterAid, I've met children like Karim who have to drink dirty water from rivers, swamps and holes dug deep into the ground. The water is dirty, filled with insects, germs and disease. I've seen and heard how dirty water makes babies sick. No wonder it makes their mothers worried. That's why I'm asking you to help communities change this picture.
You can help bring clean water to a child right now by texting or calling WaterAid to give £2 a month.
WaterAid and local experts are already working with communities who need clean water, helping them to install life-saving pipes, pumps and taps.
I've seen the difference your £2 a month can make. With clean water, everything changes.
The children are full of energy, full of life, full of hope for the future. WaterAid have already brought clean water to nearly 30 million people. But we can't stop until it's in the hands of every child. Today, 1,000 children will die from dirty water, poor sanitation or hygiene. So please, give now to help save a child's life. Text the word water to 88008 or call WaterAid now on 0800 088 7733 to give £2 a month. Thank you.
Auto Sergey automatically checks for ways to save on your car or home insurance. The Compare the Market app, the simplest way to save.
We know that living with diabetes can make daily life a challenge, and we're here to help.
I felt very low with the diagnosis and very lonely as well and embarrassed.
I think people don't necessarily realise the impact that being diabetic can have on you and the amount of extra decisions you have to make a day through carb counting every single thing you eat.
If you're struggling with the everyday challenges diabetes can bring, become a Diabetes UK member today. Receive this informative welcome pack and Balance magazine.
Balance magazine has been very good in giving me tips to manage my diabetes on a day-to-day basis.
One of the things I was recommended to do was exercise. What motivated me was my love of dance, and I got that back.
Join a community that really understands. Call 0800 035 7605 or go online to become a member for just £3 a month.
Let's get you the other big story that India Global is focusing on. Dr. Jaishankar is set to join a virtual BRICS summit meeting. It is taking place at a time where there's realignment happening around the world. It's being hosted by Brazilian President Lula da Silva, whose top of the agenda will be the tariffs that have been imposed. Brazil and India are in the same bucket when it comes to the highest level of tariffs that have been imposed by Donald Trump. The economic warfare that is now beginning to be the hallmark of his administration. It's triggered tensions across emerging markets. It also follows, there's been high-level meetings that have taken place. Remember, it also comes very close on the heels of the SCO summit, which had all the optics of the three emerging countries coming together against Donald Trump: Russia, India and China. Now, how is that likely to pave out and what's the larger message? Let's get in. Mr. Jayant Krishna, who's a senior fellow at CSIS, joins me live on the broadcast. Mr. Krishna, let me start by asking you that the BRICS summit, though of course it's being held virtually, it is not the Prime Minister who's attending it, but nevertheless, how do you read the messaging to Donald Trump and his administration by BRICS as a grouping?
So, Gauri, one thing is very clear, BRICS, as we know, is not just 5 countries now, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The extended definition of BRICS and some of the, include countries like Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE, So I think this meeting, called by Brazil, is significant because a lot of some BRIC countries have the highest tariff levied by Trump administration, especially Brazil and India, which is at the 50% bracket. China and South Africa are at 30% bracket. Indonesia 19%. Russia, Iran, and I think most of the others have a 10% tariff, right? So there's a huge variation between among these countries. And also, President Trump has spoken, about BRICS countries quite in no uncertain words earlier, that, if they continue with their anti-America agenda, which is not the case, incidentally, then he would levy additional 10% tariff on all BRICS countries, So I think it is an issue they need to discuss together. And I think India did the right thing by Prime Minister not participating and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar participating, because I think some of the things which President Trump has been saying that, BRICS has a de-dollarization agenda and so on and so forth. I think India is one which has never supported any such move or any such discussion which has happened under the BRICS umbrella. So much of his apprehensions about BRICS being an anti-America platform are unfounded to my mind. And therefore, they should be, I expect some discussion as to what could be, I don't think with President Trump any united strategy or stand by BRICS nations would work at all, because he negotiates with every country separately and even, makes one country fight with another so as to get the most mileage out of it. Right. So I don't think BRICS, you can only use this platform to share each other's concerns and so on and so forth, and how there could be more trade relationships, more business amongst these original 5 countries and extended 6 countries. I think that is what should prevail, because I don't think anything. The more BRICS will take a stand, the more it will offend President Trump and the US. That's for sure.
Well, that just leaves little room as things stand right now in terms of what could be the specific outcomes from this meeting. Let's leave it there. Thanks so much for joining me. All right, viewers, as we wrap things up on India Global, well, I leave you with the story that talks about Indian films going global. Filmmaker Annapurna Roy created history at the 82nd edition of the Venice Film Festival, bagging the Best Director. And this film is yet another milestone in Indian cinema and its coming of age. Leave you with that report. Thanks so much for watching.
As Indian cinema continues its unstoppable rise on the global stage, driven by a bold new wave of women filmmakers, Annapurna Roy has made history at the 82nd Venice Film Festival, winning Best Director in the Orizzonti competition for her film Song of Forgotten Trees.
आपने पढ़ी हैं कविताएं हमारी? हजी पढ़ने का अवसर कहाँ मिला, झांका जरूर। मुल्क में जब आज़ादी की आग लग रही है,
Song of Forgotten Trees revolves around two migrant women in Mumbai as they develop an unexpected connection beyond being roommates. The film stood tall as the only Indian entry in the category.
I was emotional, my eyes were teary, and to cheer up for my team, they all are here. I'm grateful to all the actors, Naz Sheikh and Sumi Baghel. Everyone were amazing. Thank you.
Hailing from Narayanpur, a quiet village in West Bengal's Purulia district, Anuparna's journey is anything but ordinary. As an English literature graduate, she once juggled corporate jobs in Delhi and Mumbai before chasing her cinematic dreams. Fueled by a passion for film, she pursued a diploma from Anupam Kher's acting school and participated in various acting workshops, only to realize that her true calling was behind the camera. With this win, Roy becomes the first Indian director ever to bag this honor, marking a giant leap for Indian storytelling on the world map. From Purulia to Venice, Anuparna Roy's journey